high energy speaker. This guy has graced the stage with everybody from Les Brown to Grant Cardone to Gary Vaynerchuk. I've listened to some of his live trainings that he does. When I say consistency, I believe I heard somebody call Ray Higdon the consistency beast. And I've been kind of following, looking at what he's been doing. And he is a consistency beast. This gentleman is posting daily and giving away a lot of free information, just really huge nuggets. I just read through the freakishly the marketing social media marketing a book that him and his wife did, and it's just a lot of nuggets on how to open up your network marketing business, how to, especially during COVID, how to really go on social media and really network market huge. So we're going to talk a little bit about Open Network Marketing. We're going to talk about his career, his story, where it all stems from, what made him do, 450 calls a day, 20 no's a day, all those different things. We're going to talk about those today. We're going to talk about Ray Higdon's journey, because I want you guys to get familiar with this gentleman, because he's going to be a topic of my conversation for years to come on all the trainings that I do weekly, because he has so inspired me. So I want you guys to just get ready, get prepared, make sure you got note-taking utensils there so that you can make sure you take, what we call network marketing, copious notes on what you're going to hear from Mr. Ray Higdon. So if you can go ahead and open up your camera, Mr. Ray Higdon, so you can go ahead and get started here. I'm going to ask you some questions here and let you tell your story, that I'm going to ask some questions. So guys, Mr. Ray Higdon.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right.
Hello,
absolutely,
everyone.
Man. Absolutely, brother. So now we appreciate you and your wife and all you guys done. You're seeing that book in the background, Time, Money, Freedom. I'm about halfway through that, Mr. Higdon, right now. I'm halfway through that. The social media book I've read about 3 times already. Big deal there. Of course, Go for No. I did a workbook on it, read through it. All of the things that you talk about in it are just very inspiring. And
awesome.
A huge group of people. And I like the fact that you're transparent and you can also be emotional, because I saw you telling some things about your background and kind of helping some people that called into some of your live things. And you really kind of gave them a in touch deal. So really appreciate where you're coming from, brother. Really do. A huge fan. So if you want to start by telling your story and kind of do what you do, and then I'll get some questions in there as well for you.
Sure. Well, evening, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I typically will start, my story of, I'm someone that I had, worked my way up in the corporate world to a pretty good salary. And what I realized is, the harder I worked, the more they would pay me, but the more they would demand of me. And so I was missing, school trips. I was having to cancel family vacations. I was having to go in early, stay late, and I'm doing all this work to try to raise a family, but I'm barely seeing the family. And I looked at my boss and his boss and her boss, and they were making more money than me, but they were also more miserable, and they were having relationship problems, they were having family problems. And so that's what my career was going into. That's where I was going to be in a few years, and I really didn't like that. And so I decided to do what I think a lot of people, want to do, plan to do, but just never do. And that is I left the corporate world, and just for full disclosure, I didn't go right into network marketing. I went into real estate. And so I went into real estate here in the state of Florida. Back in 2004, I left the corporate world 2005. And that's when the market was red hot. Made some good money. I thought I was a genius there for a few years. And then when the market crashed, I got wiped out. I realized that I wasn't bulletproof. I realized that I had some things to learn. And so I kind of limped into the network marketing profession. I had lost it all. I went through foreclosure. I then went through a divorce. At one point I was sleeping on my buddy's couch, and I just didn't know what I was going to do. My credit was shot. I'm out of money. No one's hiring. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I had tried network marketing, and I had some bad experiences. I just didn't, I couldn't make it work. I'd had clashes with uplines, and I just didn't want to do it. But at that point, I really didn't have very many options. And so a friend of mine invited me to a meeting. I went to that meeting. I said, you know what? I'm going to figure this thing out. I'm going to make this thing work. And I didn't know how, but I was going to make it work. And, there were three things that I did daily to become the number one income earner in that company. And I can, share those. But I did become the number one income earner in that company, did millions of dollars with that company. That company happened to merge into another company in 2013. And I ran with them for a few years. What we never planned was to build, I never planned on building a coaching and training company, but we were building on social media in 2009. Now, back then, hardly anyone was doing that. In fact, I would have people say, oh, that doesn't duplicate. That's too complicated. That's you got to be belly to belly. And not that I shied away from belly to belly. I have done thousands of home meetings. I've done thousands of Panera Bread, Starbucks meetings. I've done all those things, but I just really like the leverage of social media. I really like that idea of attracting people to me. And that's where we got a lot of attention in the network marketing space, and people wanted us to train them. So think about this. I was the number one earner of that company, but there were companies that would hire me to go speak at their events. And, and here I was the number one earner over there, right? That's not normal, right? That doesn't happen a whole lot. And so people were so hungry for how to do it on social media back then. And now, of course, most companies have embraced, building on social media. But we never intended that. Now we work with a lot of different companies. In fact, tomorrow I fly out. My wife and I fly out. We speak at a company in Dallas this weekend, and we work with a lot of different companies, work with a lot of different leaders. I have of the leaders that I've coached, I think I've have maybe 6 that have teams of over 100,000, 2 or 3 that have teams of over 300,000. And so we've been able to work with some really, really cool individuals, and we love what we do. And so I'm happy to answer questions and happy to give you what I've learned, over the last, 11, 12 years, and happy to be on here.
All right, good stuff. So one of the things that sticks out to me in the book was where you talked about, and this is really important for me, and I'm sure the audience wants to hear this, the 450 calls a day, because you were going for 20 no's a day. And you said something at the end of that, and it was like, I did it because nobody told me not to. Nobody told me that I couldn't. Nobody gave me a guideline on the go for no's. I just, like you said, when you hit the top income level of that network marketing company, you're going through foreclosure at the time. So you're having bad times. You were really, really, really hungry, it seems like. So like, what was that like, making 450 calls a day and getting 20 no's?
Okay, so those are actually 2 different stories and 2 different timelines. Okay, for full disclosure. And so for when I was, I think 19 years old, I worked for a telemarketing company selling long distance. Like, some people don't even know what I mean when I say that. Like, what are you talking about? And so I worked for a reseller of AT&T and Sprint. And when I started, I just really sucked. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna make more calls than everybody. And so when I was 19, I was making 450 calls a day, selling, trying to sell long distance. And I became the top 2% of that company. And the interesting thing, and I've done the calculations here of, like back then, if I made 40 sales, that was a pretty good week. Well, if you times that out, 450, times 5, and you divide that out by 40, I mean, it's like 1%, right? That's not an amazing ratio. I just did so much. I just made so many calls. Now, so that is my, I would say, my rejection origination story, in that I became immune to rejection. I mean, I would say 30% of the time I was cussed out. Like, you Mary, keep calling me, and you better never call me again, put me on your list. And, I'm going to send a letter. Like, I'd get threats, I'd get, cursed out. And that was like a third of all the calls. And so when I came into network marketing, or when I should say, when I got serious about network marketing, I had read Go for No. And so I I'm used to rejection. I got tons of rejection, right? And so it's just not a big deal. So I decided I'm going to set a no goal of 20 no's a day. And 20 no's a day, it's important as a distinction. That's not 20 ignores. That's not 20 non-responses. That's 20 no's. And to my knowledge, and I've been sharing this story for 10 years. To my knowledge, I only know 2 people that have actually gone and gotten 20 no's a day for more than 6 months, like I did. Both are $1 million earners. Isn't that funny? No one else will do it. And so, like, I kind of, I become gun shy of saying 20 no's a day. I'm not saying you have to do 20 no's a day. Most people won't. But if you just adopt the concept of rejection isn't going to kill you, and you went for 2 no's a day or 5 no's a day, right? Something more reasonable, because it does take a very serious, thick skin to get 20 no's a day every day.
Gotcha. And we did a 30-day go for no challenge, and the goal was to get 10 no's a day. And you had some people. I had an open Zoom where they were connected. I had a Facebook group where they were going and put their numbers in, and people saw a difference in their business. And it was like, after 30 days, check your commission statement and see, how it feels. So one of the questions that came up, that was I addressed the question when it came up originally. And then when I read the second book, I remembered. I said, "Oh, you know what? I forgot this was in here." So in the process of the course that we're doing now, we started with law of attraction, dream board, affirmations, because people are like, I can't believe in the law of attraction and go for no, because that's 2 different things. And I'm like, absolutely not. So if you want to touch on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's a very good question. And there's just a difference between there's just a very big difference between people who think they understand law of attraction and reality, right? And so I'm a fan. Law of attraction isn't a core law, but the law of vibration is. And so you're gonna have what level you're vibrating at, that is going to come back to you. And so what's important is, like, when I was getting those 20 no's a day, you could have had me hooked up to a brain monitor, a heart monitor, EKG, whatever, and you just wouldn't see a blip, So it wasn't like I'd get a no and then go eat ice cream and be sad and be like, oh, life sucks, right? So it was just like, I'm just doing my thing. There's no, my heartbeat stayed the same. There's no difference. So there's no dip in my vibration as I receive, a rejection. And it's also, there is truth and, what my friend Larry Thompson calls Sinaloa, right? Safety in numbers, law of average. And so, and they've tested this in every which way you can possibly test. In fact, in the original Go for No book, I don't know if it's in ours, but in the original, they talk about the door-to-door insurance salesman, where they did tests of, instead of doing this fancy presentation, they went door to door and said, hey, you're not looking to buy insurance, are you? And because they increased their numbers so much, they increased their sales. And so that's just fact. That's just math. That's just the way it goes. If you ask more people, you're going to locate more yeses, but you're also going to locate more nos. And so here's, the real thing to focus around when it comes to law of attraction. And this is, most people do not understand this. They just don't. The key for you to truly use the law of attraction is threefold. Okay. Number one, you have to see what it is that you want. What is that thing? And you have to have a vision of it. And so if you've ever caught any interviews with athletes, right? If the right questions are asked, you will find that they always saw winning that trophy before they won it. Always. And they've interviewed Olympians where, they got the gold medal and they're like, hey, how do you feel? And they're like, you know what, when I was 6 years old, I imagined this and I saw it. Like, you'll find it 100% of the time. If the right questions are asked, they all saw it beforehand. And I'll share with you some, personal examples of that sort of stuff. But the 3 steps are, you have to see it, you got to have a vision. Now, if you're someone that you go to stretch your mind and you try to create a vision of you winning or rank advancing or walking on stage or whatever, and you're like, nah, that'll never happen. You didn't see it, right? You can't, it's just not going to happen for you. If you want to create an accomplishment you've never gotten before, you have to first see it. And this is why the term, I'll believe it when I see it. That's a very detrimental term, very detrimental, because it means you can't see it or believe it. So you ain't going to achieve it. It ain't going to happen, right? If you can't see it or believe it, just kiss it goodbye, pick a different goal, right? Because it's not going to happen. You have to be able to see it first. So you see it first, and then you have to create an emotion. And an emotion is not an anticipatory thing, okay? This is not anticipatory. This is a completion emotion. How would you feel had you already accomplished that thing? And so I'll give you, I can give you lots of examples around this, but I'll give you an example. So about 6 months, and this has nothing to do with business, but I can give you some business ones too. So about 6 months ago, I bought dance lessons for my wife and I. And this year we've now been married, 10 years. And so I bought dance lessons for our anniversary. And over the last 6 months, we've been going to these dance lessons. And so, she's of course amazing and just, spinning, kicking her legs. She's just incredible, right? And me, I'm just like Frankenstein, flat-footing it out there. And just, I was the guy that always stood by the wall and tried to look cool, right? I'm not the dancer. But my wife is interested in it. I bought the darn things, right? I'm going to do it. Well, we go and we attend a dance competition, just to attend, just to watch. And so, we go, and as I'm watching this dance competition, I had this thought, man, I'd be scared out of my mind to be out there. And that's when I knew we had to do it. We had to do a darn dance competition. And so as we're preparing, I realized something. I've been going into the dance studio and just being just Ray, not good at dancing. Like that's how I was showing up. And so they'd say, oh, good job. Oh, I'm just trying. And I realized that I wasn't using my full power in that area of my life. And so I go in one day and I tell the dance instructors, I said, hey, I just want to let you know, and this is a very, very powerful thing for you to do in your business, in your life, in your relationship, and anything in the world. And so I went in and I said, hey, I just want to let you guys know, I've been letting my past dictate my present and future. And that's going to change. So as of today, I'm a good dancer. And they're like, okay, great, right? It's very weird for them to hear, right? But notice what I said, not I'm going to be, I am a good dancer. And so every day, yes, yes, I did, do some practicing every day. Some days not as much as others. But every day I started meditating, right? Because I do meditate every day, but I started in my meditations, I started seeing myself as a good dancer. Now, here's the important question people don't ask themselves. What would that look like? Well, what would that look like? Well, if I was a good dancer, what would prove that? You know what? I would get compliments. People would say things. And so what would they say? And so I saw one of the owners of the studio, Irina, she's Serbian, right? And so I saw her with her accent say, very much improved. And then I saw my dance instructor. I thought, like, what might she say? And so in my meditation, I see in my mind's eye, I see her saying, wow, impressive. And so I go in, and this is, I'd already told him that I'm not letting my past dictate my present and future. And so I go in about 4 days later, and I show this, salsa thing to Irina, and she goes, very much improved. I do a crossover, and I use my ankles the right way, and my dance instructor says, wow, impressive. Literally verbatim of what I saw. And, we can dive down that rabbit hole, a little bit more. But the point is, if you, step one, see what it is that you want, okay? What is that rank? What is that income, whatever? Number two, get emotional about the accomplishment of that as if it's already happened. So if everything is in the future, then you'll never get it. This is the problem people don't understand, right? So if everything is in the future, like our politicians tell us, right? Future utopia, everything will be great in the future. It means it'll never be here. It ain't happening. So whatever's in the future is always in the future, because tomorrow the future is the next day, and the next day the future is in the next day, and the next day the future is in the next day, right? So you have to have it in the present. You have to act as if and feel as if it has already been accomplished. Then ask yourself, what would that look like? So if I was at the highest rank in the company, what would that look like? Who would call me and congratulate me? What would they say? Who would recognize me in the group? Who would send me a gift? Who might, who might, introduce me on stage? Who might I think up there? What would I wear when I'm up there? Right? And so seeing those things, and that's what's really important. And then step three is you take that inspired action. You can't do those two things alone, because what happens is when you see something and you get emotional about the accomplishment of it, you will be presented with new options 100% of the time. So, for example, when I saw myself as a good dancer and then asked myself, okay, what would that look like? Well, people would give me compliments, right? And all of a sudden I go in one day and one of the other instructors I don't normally work with was there and showed me something they'd never showed me before. And they're like, hey, if I were you, man, I would just make this little tweak, right? Turn your ankle this way. And I'm like, oh, that was really, really helpful. Thank you, right? I remember, when I had a vision of being, the top income earner of the company, but I wasn't just yet. I remember someone, saying a certain phrase to me that made me, kind of challenge me a little bit, but it made me tweak my presentation that got me a lot more results. So see, it's not just see it, get emotional about it. You have to take that inspired action. You will be given opportunities. I remember the very first time I met Eric Worre. He came. I was speaking at an event, and he came. He was there for I'm not sure what he was doing there, but he was there. And so I went up to him, and this was back in probably 2011, maybe. And I went up to him and I said, "Hey, man, Ray Higdon, I just want to say, thank you for all the value you bring to the network marketing profession." And he's like, "Hey, I know who you are, man. You're amazing. Why don't you come out to my event next week?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And I thought, oh man, I've been traveling, man. I really don't want to go. Like I've been traveling like nonstop. I had barely been home. And I just I had just recently set a new goal. All of a sudden I'm being asked to go there. I could have not taken inspired action. I could have said, no, I'm really tired. Right. But instead I went out there. And so I go out there, and 2 days in, I'm like, dang, man, I wish I was speaking here. Like I should be speaking here. And so I saw myself on stage. Day 3, he messages me in the morning. He's like, hey man, could you do a little talk about marketing? And I've only had that happen at probably 10 events where I've been in the audience and I saw myself on stage, had gratitude for being on that stage because I knew that I would bring value. And all of a sudden the last day I get asked, right? That happened at an event called Live the Dream in Vegas too. And so it's see it, you feel it, you take inspired action. Well, guess what? With inspired action, doesn't mean you're perfect. Doesn't mean, all of a sudden, because of the law of attraction, you get no no's. I still get no's. I still get rejection. And, and some of those are learning lessons. Some of them are, I later find out that it's good that I was rejected, right? Because something bad happened or, they weren't an ethical person or whatever. And sometimes it's just a no, it's not a big deal. And so you can't profess law of attraction without taking inspired action, and you can't do inspired action without getting some rejection. So that's my full answer on that.
No, that's good. This is good. And I love how in depth you are, because when you talk about law of attraction, a lot of times it's just kind of this surface level conversation. And I take that so serious. And like you said, the law of vibration, I follow that as well. And I agree with you 100% that is really the main law. So part of my story, when I'm doing my presentation on law of attraction and dream boards and stuff, is before I hit executive director and was earning six figures in my network marketing company, I went to Super Saturday. You familiar with that? I went to Super Saturday, and the front tables had the reserved for ring earners, reserved for $100,000 ring earner, $250,000 ring, whatever. When the event was over, I stole the signs and put them inside of my garage and put them against the wall. So when I pull up my car ring, right? So you said, like, you're making it a reality. So every day when I put into my garage, I saw on the left-hand side, it said reserved for ring earners. On the right-hand side, it said reserved for $100,000 income earner. And I put in whichever one I wanted, and that made it a reality. And as we went over the first 2 weeks of the course that we're doing now, we'll go for open network marketing. I'm like, you guys need to go to Canva and create a graphic with yourself as a ring earner and as an executive director, and have that graphic and put it on Facebook, even though you're not there yet. You have to see that. It has to be out there for you. You have to conspire for the world to do you good. So those things are so, I believe in that very heavily.
And I'll help with something too, because emotions have, because I bet there's people on here that have done vision boards and vision books and stuff, and they're like, well, it ain't happening. And it's probably because of the emotional part. So in the past, I would make a mistake of not asking that additional question of what would that look like. Okay. So I think some people can do this. I cannot. I can't see my bank account and see it 10 times bigger, and that generated an emotion. Like, that's just, to me, that's just math. That's just numbers. Those are results, and it just doesn't work. But I can say, what would that look like? Well, if we were a 10 times bigger company, we'd get a jet, right? What would that look like? Well, we'd have a Higdon Group runway. We'd have a Higdon Group logo on the outside of it. I would whisk the family over to Miami or Tampa or Orlando. We'd have masterminds where 6 and 7 figure earners would buy spots in the jet, and we would mastermind on our way to somewhere, mastermind on our way back. See, that I can see. Or I can see, we're now, I think 4 times now, we've been able to raise over $100,000 at a time for a specific charity. Handing over $250,000 check to a charity. What would that feel like, right? So I can create emotion around that. I can't create emotion around just a bank statement. Like, maybe some people can. I can't. But so when it comes to being a ring earner, I would think, okay, what would that look like? Who would congratulate me, right? Who would comment on on my picture? Who would say, hey man, I was wrong about you? Who would I prove wrong? Right? I would think about those kind of things, because you can create emotions around those things just to help with that imagery.
Right. And you mentioned about the so just something that's in your kind of in your, I guess, your resume, right? Or about the author, because I put one of those together where it says, as a philanthropist, Ray has helped over 600,000 of March of Dimes, raise over 600,000 for March of Dimes. And if you just want to mention that, because that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. We one thing we're really proud of is we helped fund a culture training through the state of Florida through the March of Dimes. And what it specifically did, which is, it's so up our alley because we love teaching culture, is it taught nurses and doctors in the NICU and PICU how to better communicate with parents that have kids in there, right? So as a parent, if your kid's in the NICU, PICU, then, you're having the worst time of your life, right? You're worried that your kid's going to make it. Like, are they going to make it? And a lot of times the nurse or doctor just, yes, your child has this and this percentage chance to live. And it's like, thanks for being, so terrible at communications. Well, that program throughout the entire state, we actually helped fund that to train them on how to better communicate with parents who are having the worst time of their life, right? And then last year we did switch it up. We actually raised over $100,000 for an organization that helps fight human trafficking. And so, I think one thing to take away here is, as you create more success and you build more influence, you're able to do more good, right? You can do bad too, right? If that's your choice, but you could choose to do good. with more money, you can do more good. With more influence, you can do more good. With a larger team, you can do more good. You can choose to tackle the obstacles and things that you don't like about, the world, or you want to improve, or whether that's abuse centers, trauma, education, or whatever. With more success, you can help those things. With less success, you have less of a chance to help. Now, it doesn't mean you can't help at all, but it just means there's a limit to how much impact you can make.
Good stuff. Good stuff. That's good. That's good. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the 5 levels of failure, and that being the ability to fail, the willingness to fail, the wantingness to fail, failing bigger and faster, and failing exponentially. I think that I spent quite a few hours talking to the people who took the course about changing what failure means in their mind, so that failure, they understand that, like the book talks about, it's not yin and yang, but it's kind of going down the same path. You have to fail to succeed, and don't look at that failure like, hey, I failed, but that means I'm getting closer to my goal as long as I can continue to get up. So I just wanted to talk about those 5 levels of failure, because I think those are really some huge steps in getting the go for no concept.
Yeah. So it's, it's something that I remember I was doing a talk, and someone said, yeah, man, you know what? I want to impact people. I want to succeed, but I just don't want to deal with the haters. And my response was, you can't get to the thinkers without going through the haters. You just can't. It just never happens. If you look back, if you can Google these, but, back in early 2000, people were calling for Jeff Bezos to be fired. They're like, this company is in the red. They're not making any money. Like, how long is this bozo running it? They called him Jeff Bozo. And, they wanted, they wanted him ousted. And now, today he's either, number 1 or number 2 richest, guy on the planet. And think about what he did for our lives. Now, it's very common for, politicians and media to make us hate the wealthy and, whatever, and just play their, class warfare thing that they do. But imagine, if someone told you in the 90s that, hey, there'll be a day where anything that you can possibly think of will be delivered to your house the next day, you'd be like, right. We're not in magic land here. I mean, I remember, like, we were pushing around our stroller, and I'm like, man, I wish this thing had cup holders. I'm like, I bet Amazon has cup holders. I'm doot. And that day, how is this possible? That day, they deliver the cup holder, like this random cup holder, like it fits it. And it's like, that day, how's that possible? Is it sitting in a store around my house or something? Like, it makes no sense. I don't understand how it works. And if you told someone that, 20 years ago, that's going to happen, they'd be like, yeah, right. Okay, spaceman. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And so, you have to understand that, you can't get, and here's how I really look at failure. When you set a goal that you're serious about, that's meaningful, and you are really going to go after, often you don't have the mindset to get there. You don't have it. So you literally have to dip before you get back up there. So if I look at my situation, so when I was in real estate, it was a red hot market, and I'm flipping houses, I'm doing all kinds of stuff, right? I mean, money's like, wow, this is amazing, and it was awesome. And I was so not a good steward of my money. And so I remember a guy said, hey man, we're drilling for oil out here. You want to invest? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Hey, and these are all true stories. Hey, we have a real estate brokerage. We have a Remax down in Dominican Republic. You want to go in on it? Yeah, man, let's do it. Both turned out to be scams. Both I lost money at. And that's 2 stories of 20. I was not a good steward of money. I thought it was just going to come in, and I was just like, oh, and I'll just make more. And I was a terrible steward. So for me to become better, for me to build a larger business, I had to lose it all. I had to go through foreclosure. I needed that. And some people wear, their failure like it's a tattoo and it's permanent, but I actually needed that. So sometimes you need, I was on a call, the other day. One of my coaches is John Assaraf from The Secret. And so I get on a call with him a couple times a month and we chat. And, he hit me pretty good the other day. He went pop, right? He hit me. And because there were some numbers that I didn't know about my company. And he's like, bro, you got to know these numbers. Why don't you know these numbers? How are you going to do this thing if you don't even know your numbers? Right. And so he hit me pretty good. I needed that hit because that gave me a reality check of, oh, you're right. I need, if I want to get here, then I need to know that thing. And so, you can't shy away from failure. Now, how do most people show up? Most people, the reason that they're not consistent is not because of a lack of information. See, that's just false, right? So people that are like, man, I'm just not very consistent. And I just need a better routine. I just need a better daily method of operation. I need a better diet. I need a better fill-in blueprint, checklist, script, whatever, right? What most people that aren't consistent need to understand that their business problem is a personal problem. And it's not information, it's emotion. They need to understand what emotion is protecting them. So the people that aren't consistent, it's very simple. In 99 out of 100 cases, it's that they're drawing the wrong conclusion to success. They're drawing the wrong conclusion to success. And so, for example, I can give you a whole bunch of these, but, and I appreciate that, Mahalia. If you're getting value out of this, drop a comment. We'd love to hear it. So I'll give you one quick example and one little bit longer example. So if you ever saw one of your family members make a bunch of money and lose it and get ridiculed by other family, well, you may find yourself not consistent because most people know that with consistency comes success. Well, if you're so worried about losing it all, then one way to prevent that is just to never have it. Can't get ridiculed if you never fall from grace, right? If I just stay under the radar, if I just make minimum wage, if I just make really little money, then then I never have a problem. No big deal. So I've seen that a bunch of times, and we talk about that in our Time, Money, Freedom book. About 2 weeks ago, I was on a coaching call. So when we sell our Time, Money, Freedom book, we'll sneak golden tickets in them. So about 3% of our books have a golden ticket in them where you get a 10-minute coaching call with me, one-on-one. And so I'm on this, this lady won, and she got one. And so I'm on a call with her, and I got 10 minutes. And I my goal on a call is to create transformation. And I know that transformation is rarely about information. It's actually usually about emotion. And so we get on this call and she says, I've been at this thing for 4 years, and, I have a good recruiting month, and then I just find myself falling off the next 2 months, and then I'll have a good recruiting month and then I'll fall out every 2 months. And so that's been my pattern for 4 years. And, you don't have to raise your hand, but I bet some people resonate with that, right? They just kind of have a pattern of, I have a good month, and then a couple bad, and good, and then a couple bad. And so what did I know, right? So at that point, I know a couple things. One, I had checked out her social media. So I knew she mainly built on social media, so that I know. And I knew that she's in a pattern, which once I know your pattern, I know it's a protection mechanism. I just got to figure out what you're protecting, right? What are you protecting by doing this, that in that way? And so I decided she had used the word disappointment. And so when I'm coaching someone, often I'll throw them a poke. And a poke is a question that's direct, that they're not expecting, that sometimes is accurate, sometimes isn't, but will help me get to the core problem. And so she had used the word disappointment. And so I said, who disappointed you as a kid? And she's like, oh. And she said, well, not disappointment, but maybe shame. I'm like, okay, right? So I threw my poke. It wasn't exactly on target, but it got me to where I needed to go. I'm like, what do you mean by that? And she goes, well, my mom was a prostitute. And, there's a lot of, history there and just not good feelings and everything. And I said, okay. And so I feel at this point, I probably know the problem, but I had to ask a few more questions. So I asked the question of, do a lot of people know this? Like, do locals know this? Like, friends and family know this? She goes, they all know it. And then she added in the final ingredient that now I know what the problem is. And she said, and my mom is still alive. I'm like, got it. I know your problem. And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, you refuse to reach your potential because you believe if you do, that the local yokels and friends and family will chime in on your social media and say, yeah, but your mom was a prostitute, which will bring shame to your mom, and you would do anything in the world to prevent that. Is that correct? And she starts bawling. She's like, oh my God. She's just crying. She's like, I never thought of it that way. She's like hyperventilating. And she's like, I never thought of it that way. And I said, but there's a different way to look at this. Your mom literally did everything in the world to give you a better opportunity than she had in her life. And for that to be the reason that you don't do the work is a slap in the face. And so, that was 10 minutes. That was a 10-minute call. And so she texts me 2 days later and she said, I had a talk with my mom and it is on. And now I suspect what information did I give her? I didn't tell her a blueprint. I didn't tell her a daily routine. I didn't give her a script. I didn't give her a hashtag strategy. I didn't tell her any of that nonsense. I told her what her actual problem was. And so with awareness of the actual problem, there's hope for you to solve it. And so, we'll see. We'll see if she keeps it up, but I bet she does. Because now I've taken what was, I never subconsciously, see, no one will ever consciously say this. No one will ever say, well, I don't want to become rich because Uncle Earl got rich and then he lost it all and he was ridiculed by the family and I never want to feel that way. They just won't get rich and they won't know why and they won't be aware of why. And so, with that awareness, there's hope. And so, with awareness now there's hope for her. And I suspect she'll crush it and she'll totally change her life. But I took something that was, I will never subconsciously, not consciously, I will never do this thing because I don't want to harm mama. She's already gone through so much, but she went through that for you. She went through that for you to have more potential, for you to reach your goals, for you to reach your dreams that she could never reach because of whatever circumstances she was in. And so now it's more of a responsibility. I've altered her identity from, I got to protect mama to, damn, I have a duty to my mom, and you got a duty to your mom. You're going to do that duty. And so now we've just altered identities, and, same person, she can use the same, she already knows how to recruit. She's had good recruiting months. She doesn't need help there. She knows how to do it. She just didn't know why she kept sabotaging herself. And so, that's the kind of stuff that gets me excited.
And for me, and this what's so good about having this conversation with you is that, one, you're doing just stories. We're story driven, and when I'm doing an interview or I'm training, it's all about like stories and mindset and understanding that it's not the step 1, step 2, step 3. Not that doesn't work, not that doesn't help, but people like to kind of learn through a story and not like they kind of get it through that story. And I think that it's perfect that you're doing that. I have something that I do called network marketing as an entrepreneur. And I like to put people in front of individuals like you, because I don't like for people to drink the Kool-Aid of their company. And it's like, oh, it's just about this company. And it's like, no, you're in an industry and there's some things you need to learn that you may not learn from that company that you need to learn from a person like you or other mentors in the business. So you're saying some very valuable stuff. one of my mentors, Darnell Self, who was I'm on his team in Legal Shield, and he said something to me, slap in the face, on a call where they were talking about income before I was earning 5 figures a month, and that was marketing. And he had people on the team talking about all the income they were earning. And he said it before he closed the call out, I wish upon you $20,000 a month problems. And some people were like, they didn't get that. And because I believe in, vibrations and law of attraction, it was like, in order for me to have a $20,000 problem, I've got to have $20,000 coming in a month, right? So it's like, I'm not the guy that's scared to make money because I don't want to pay the IRS. If that makes sense. Right. So, and that's kind of where it's at. So if you can touch on real quickly, just as an entrepreneur in the network marketing industry, what should people be like, so that they're knowing that this is a business that you have to run. This is not just this little side hustle, and the only people you can take information from is the guy that recruited you. There's an industry, and this is a business that you run as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like over the years, I feel like this is not as bad as it was. I mean, there have definitely been, some companies that are completely anti, outside trainers and everything. And I feel like that's improved. The thing to take away there is no other industry is like that, So, you can have a real estate brokerage, and some of these real estate brokerages pay multi-levels, right? There's several of them out there. But would they be upset if their brokers went to Tony Robbins? Of course not. And so like there's just no other industry that has that scarcity mentality, around that kind of thing. And so I always, I didn't hear you mention this one, but our leadership book talks a lot about culture. And culture is the making of people to feel good, regardless of their level of desire or level of result. So there are people that have been in network marketing for 10 years and they love it. They get the product every month, or they pay for the service every month. They love being part of the mission. They've made great friendships. They love being part of something bigger than them, but they've never made any money, and that's not a desire of theirs. And so I always hesitate to say, hey, all y'all need to be treating this like a hardcore business, because that's not the desire of everyone. If you have the desire to make full-time income, then yes, you absolutely have to treat it like that, right? And so, what does that look like? That means a combination of, you doing the work, right? And you constantly working to get better at doing the work. And, I remember one of my first coaches, he's someone I talk a lot about in our Time, Money, Freedom book. He passed away a couple of years ago from pancreatic cancer. But I remember getting on a call with him way back in 2010. And he said, he goes, so how are you mainly recruiting right now? And I said, I reach out to people. I make a lot of phone calls. I do this, I do that. And he goes, oh. And I'm like, what? And he said, man, if that's what I had to do, I would wonder what the hell was wrong with my marketing. And I was like, And it was like, dang, I do got to get better at marketing. And so it's not that I didn't stop prospecting, and he was not in my company or team or anything. He was totally, I met him at an event. Right. And so it wasn't that I stopped prospecting, but I started having this idea of, man, if I get good at marketing, people are coming to me. It's just a lot easier. And so like I didn't stop prospecting until I had enough leads. And then, fast forward about a year later, I was generating over 3,000 leads a month without ads. And so, like I really, I would anyone in my company have told me that? Of course not. No one was doing that. They were all telling me, make more calls, do this. And I'm not saying not to do that, but sometimes you need a different perspective. Sometimes you need a different way of looking at things and looking at the same problem. And so, I've gotten a lot of value from, when I was growing a team and, even after. One of my, crazier ones. At least I think people see as crazy. I don't see it as crazy, but I hired a couple years ago. I hired Grant Cardone, and I gave him $100,000 for 6 hours. People freak out when they hear that, right? So 17 G's an hour. But the reality is, in the very first hour, I gave him, one of the things that I was struggling with, and he gave me a totally different way to look at it. And that 1 hour added over $1 million that year. The different way of listening to him and saying, oh, that's really different. I wasn't thinking that way, added over $1 million that year. So that 1 hour that I paid 17,000 for, or 100,000 for the whole thing, over $1 million. And so, I look at, investing in your education, you're the constant, right? You're wherever you go, there you are. And so the more I can improve me, then the better results I'm going to get, the more people I impact, the more I'm able to give to charity, the more people I'm able to help, the more I'm able to help. And what I've learned is the more that I can help me.
Sorry. Yeah, you have to invest in yourself that way. And when people think that having $100,000 of Grant Cardone for 6 hours, it's like that's a different level. That's not crazy. That's a different level of sacrifice, because you have to spend that kind of money to get those kind of leadership trainings, or whatever the case may be, to get to the next level and action plan from it. So no, that is great. That is huge. And again, I'm gonna say that to myself. I wish upon myself the ability to do that, because when I'm in a position to give $100,000 to a guy like Grant Cardone for 6 hours, I will certainly do it, because I know the value in that. It's just not in my budget as we speak, but it's definitely not a crazy idea.
What are the steps, right? See it, create emotion around it as if it's already happened, and then take the inspired action, man.
Good. So during this interview, I just got that. So that is now this is going to be my deal for me to be able to do that, to be able to hire a guy of that stature, to be able to and not sweat it, and know that I'm going to get a breakthrough from it. So I appreciate that. So that is my aha moment. So I told you, 45-minute interview has been past 45 minutes. So I do not want to take advantage of your time. I do not like to do that to people. What can you give us as far as things like getting some things from you, like in your books, your events you got coming up? Lay it out. Like, the people who I work with, they know that there's things that are costs that we're not afraid of sales. Either you want it or you don't. I wouldn't put you in front of them if I didn't think that the information you have was valuable. So you said you have an event in September. I'm telling you now, I'm going to be there. I'm going to get a ticket. I'm going to be there for that virtual event, because I believe in what you're talking about, and I wouldn't promote you and not be at the event myself. So if you could throw in the chat whatever they need to.
Yeah. So we have our annual event, and it's called Rank Makers Live, the Social Media Super Summit. And that's rankmakerslive.com. It's a virtual event. We'll be, my wife and I and the speakers will be in a studio. So real, the fancy, you've seen them, the fancy screens and everything. So we'll be in a really cool studio, and that's September 10th through 12th. That is really designed to just help you help you plan out and create the best version of yourself in your business. One thing I didn't mention is, in the last 3 years, we've helped network marketers bring in over 300,000 new customers, 71,000 new reps, and achieve 14,000 rank advances. We actually track our progress in our private groups. And so we know, what we're doing is really helping a lot of people. And that event is our transformation event. You'll see me do laser coaching, where we bring people on live. And I'll give you an example. Last year we had a lady on there, Heather, and Heather, she was just terrified of doing video. And so I chatted with her for a little bit, and then, we throw the poke, right? And it's like, and so I kind of figured this one out, and I said, well, at what point in your life were you really embarrassed? And she was like, and long story short, in high school, she had delivered a speech and she had really screwed it up, and a lot of people laughed at her. And so she didn't realize the association of that being made fun of and being laughed at was actually associated with her not doing videos when she knows she should be doing them. And so, after that awareness, I told her, I said, okay, we're going to take a break. You need to do a video. And so we go to break, and she does her video, and it's like she was a professional. It was amazing. It was incredible. Someone that said, I'm terrified to do videos. And I'm like, seriously? That was incredible. Like her energy, and that's the thing, is when you become aware of what is it that's been holding you back for so long, it's like a lion is released. It's like the dragon's out of the cage, just whooping its big wings, and you just show up bigger, you show up brighter, you show up more powerful. And so, we mix, yes, we teach you leadership, we teach you culture, we teach you recruiting, we teach you, how to use Instagram reels and the tactical kind of stuff. But we also unlock that lion inside of you. We unlock that just incredible power within you, so that you start to do everything at a bigger level. You start to show up bigger. And so we have some amazing speakers. We have, Shalene Johnson. We have two different Clubhouse experts, because a lot of people are loving Clubhouse. We got two different Clubhouse experts. In fact, Gary, he actually ran a Clubhouse with one of the founders of Netflix. He had 89,000 people on. And so we have some experts in that space. I have my friend Matt Morris, which he's awesome. And he's got an amazing story of homeless to being a multi-seven-figure earner in his company, and a good friend of mine. And so we're really excited. I even have one of my good friends who's a YouTube expert. And one thing that you need to understand, whether you are a TikToker, Facebooker, or whatever, everybody uses YouTube. Everyone does. So why not get some of that? Why not get some of that traffic? Why not get some, attracting more people to you on there? And there are some very simple tactics that you can use to do that. So we will have plenty of tactical of what to do, but we also will have that empowerment of, what's slowing you down? Why are you in this pattern? Let's get you out of that pattern. Plus, when you have a ticket, you unlock a whole bunch of trainings. Last week we did two. I did one on sales and marketing, on how to be more persuasive. It's about an hour training. And then my friend Michelle did a training around Clubhouse, of how to grow your Instagram through Clubhouse. And so just having a ticket, you unlock all those trainings, and we're real excited about it. But that's at rankmakerslive.com. And would love to, if you like this, you will absolutely love 3 days with us for sure.
Well, I'm going to continue to promote it. I do weekly trainings. I have a YouTube channel, and if you guys, some things that Ray isn't saying, you should learn from. Every time I ask Ray a question, he answers with a story. So we've been talking about developing your story and developing the storytelling skills, so that you can recruit better, you can do better in network marketing, because people love to hear stories. And you're watching it from him. He's not even saying that he's doing it, but it's natural. It's automatic. You ask him a question, there's not going to be an answer. There's going to be a story with the answer in the story. And that's the way it works, guys. So this has been fantastic. I'm going to continue to promote this event. Like I said, I'm going to be there myself. And guys, Clubhouse, I do a Clubhouse every Thursday. So I'm telling you, Clubhouse works. It's a big deal. And now they let Android can get in there now with Clubhouse. So I promise you guys, Clubhouse is a really great way. I've been able to get people on the Instagram through Clubhouse. It's really been helpful, and I'm getting new people. I'm getting people that aren't network marketers that are getting into network marketing through Clubhouse. So it is a fantastic way. And something else you just said, right? I tell my clients, I don't care what social media you decide to use. You pick the platform, and I'll show you. But you better have a YouTube channel. If you're a business owner, you better have a YouTube channel, because that is free traffic. So I'm glad I've been telling people that, because you support it. And if you support that, then that means I've been making a good decision by telling my clients that. So I appreciate that approval. Sure. Anything else before you go? Are you good? You got everything that you wanted to?
Yeah, I mean, all of our books are on Amazon if you're wanting to get one of the books. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on. I hope
absolutely. The last one you picked up, I'm gonna grab that one. I don't have that one. I'll grab that one myself tonight. I'm an Audible person, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab that book and make sure I'm listening to that, because I want all your material. because I want to understand exactly, what you've got going on and the skills that you're teaching. So I appreciate all the free stuff too. I've been looking at everything. Twitter, man, has been great. YouTube has been great, guys. So follow Ray Higdon, guys. Seriously, follow him. When you finish here, follow him. Look at all the stuff. He's giving away a ton of stuff, man. You can get breakthrough just with his free stuff on top of all the paid stuff, which will encourage you more to do the rank makers and rank masters and get involved in his September 10th through 12th event. So thank you so much, Ray Higdon. I really appreciate you. I appreciate the books. I appreciate what you did in Go for No, and you giving us your time. You and your wife enjoy your the rest of your night, and you have a safe trip.
Thank you.